Hello and welcome. Today we're kicking off a guided tour of API architectures. It's never been more important to understand these styles because they are the absolute backbone of our interconnected digital world. So let's get this tour started. I mean, seriously, have you ever stopped to think about it? How does your food delivery app know your location using a map from a totally different company? Or how does that travel website pull in flight times, hotel rooms, and rental car prices all at the same time? Well, that little bit of magic is exactly what we're talking about today. And the answer is the API, which stands for Application Programming Interface. The best way to picture it is as a digital bridge. It's basically a set of rules that lets completely different pieces of software talk to each other, exchange information, and work together, seamlessly. They're the invisible engines that power pretty much every single digital thing you do. All right, so here's the roadmap for our tour. We just covered what APIs are. Next up, we're going to meet the established players, then we'll check out the data-centric innovators, followed by the event-driven specialists. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about how you actually choose the right style for your project. Okay, first stop on our tour, the established players. You can think of these as the foundational pillars that a huge chunk of the internet was built on. Let's meet the OGs. First up, we have SOAP. Think of SOAP as the super mature, highly structured veteran of the group. It's a really comprehensive XML-based protocol, which makes it the top dog for enterprise systems where security and reliability are just not negotiable. We're talking financial services, payment gateways, the heavy-duty stuff. The trade-off, though? All that structure means it can be incredibly complex and wordy. It's total overkill for something like a simple photo-sharing app. And then, of course, there's REST. REST is, without a doubt, the backbone of the modern internet. It's so popular because it's flexible and way simpler to get started with, since it just uses the standard HTTP methods we're all familiar with. Most of the services you use every single day, Twitter, YouTube, they're all powered by REST APIs. It does have its limits, though, especially when you need things to happen in real time. All right, on to our next stop, the innovators. As our apps got more and more complex, developers really needed better, more efficient ways to get data back and forth. So these next two styles are all about performance and precision. So let's talk about GraphQL. This came out of Facebook, and its superpower is precision. It's actually a query language for your API, which lets the app ask for exactly the data it needs, no more, no less. This totally solves that classic problem with REST, where you're either getting way too much data or not enough. But all that power comes with a bit of a steeper learning curve, for sure. Now, on the other side of that performance coin, you've got gRPC. So if GraphQL is all about data precision, gRPC is all about raw, blistering speed. This one came from Google, and it's a huge favorite for communication between services, microservices, inside a big system, like what Netflix uses. It uses a super efficient format called protocol buffers. Just think of it as a really compact and fast language for services to talk to each other. The main downside, it can be a little tricky to use directly in a web browser. So, here's the bottom line. The choice between these two really comes down to what you're trying to optimize. Do you need a ton of flexibility for your front-end apps to get very specific data? GraphQL is your friend. But if you need the absolute fastest communication possible between your internal backend services, then gRPC is hands down the winner. Our final stop on this tour brings us to a really interesting group, the specialists. These styles aren't designed for just requesting data. No, they're built for apps that need to react to events the moment they happen, usually in real time. First up, meet WebSocket. The key thing to understand here is that it creates a persistent, two-way connection. It's like an open phone line between the client and the server. This is the tech that powers things like live chat apps or online gaming, where even a tiny delay would ruin the experience. That connection just stays open, letting data fly back and forth instantly. And finally, we've got webhooks. Okay, so if a WebSocket is a two-way conversation, a webhook is more like a one-way notification. It's a push model. So instead of your app constantly asking, "Is it there yet?" the server just automatically sends a message when something specific happens. A great example is when a new code commit on GitHub triggers an automated build. It's perfect for those kinds of automated, asynchronous workflows. So the core difference really just boils down to this. A WebSocket is like keeping a phone line open for a continuous back-and-forth conversation. A webhook is like getting a single text alert that says, "Hey, that thing you were waiting for just happened." They're both driven by events, but they solve totally different kinds of problems. So, After this whirlwind tour through the entire world of API architectures, we finally land at the single most important question that every single developer and architect has to ask themselves. Right? After seeing all these contenders, the secure veteran, the flexible workhorse, the precise querier, the high-speed racer, and the real-time specialists, which one actually takes the crown? Which one is the ultimate champion? And the answer? Well, it might actually surprise you. The big reveal is there isn't one. There is no single best API architecture style. Period. Here's the real takeaway from all of this. The best choice is always dictated by the specific problem you are trying to solve. Are you building a super secure banking application? SOAP might be the right call. A public web service for lots of people? REST is a fantastic place to start. A really complex mobile app with tons of data? You should probably look at GraphQL. At the end of the day, context is everything. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Every single one of these styles we talked about was created to solve a new challenge that the previous ones couldn't handle. So the real question is, what's next? What new communication problem is going to spark the invention of the next great API style? It's a pretty exciting thing to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this tour.